Hello everyone, it's Dale here from the Mad Platter Outdoors YouTube channel. I'm gonna take you a walk through one of my hunting spots. I have a couple little food plots. Well, I guess I could just call them openings. I've tried to plant food plots here. They never do too well. This is some rough ground over here, and I haven't done too much liming and fertilizing, but I'll walk you through. I had some trees come down. I got my chainsaw. I'm trying to avoid the raindrops. It just poured, but I think I got a couple hour opening. But I figured I'd walk you through real quick. This property here is literally, when you say small property, this is a small property. And I'm in Pennsylvania. You can't bait, so it's hard to kind of get deer sometimes to come on these little plots. But it's probably about 10 acres, and I have, I'd say 5 or 6 acres are huntable. It's archery only over here because it's probably in a safety zone, or it's getting close to a safety zone if you're using, if you were to use rifle. So I just archery hunt here, but what I did over at this spot was pretty much real thick, and you'll see, and I'll show you some as I'm walking through, but it was almost impassable. So I hunted here for a few years, and the deer just weren't even coming through. It was so thick. But there were some openings. It was just too thick for them to get through. So I spent a couple years like clearing this out and making some edge, and now I shot one of my biggest bucks over here a couple years back. And I see pretty good deer here every year. So I'll show you what I did. One good thing about this is the access for me to get in and out of here is so easy. Like, I have one tree stand on this far end, and then I have another tree stand down on the other far end, and I can get in and out of these like very easily without spooking any deer. But this opening, or any opening you can see in this video, are openings that I made trimming out shrubs, brush hogging like these thick jaggers. Like if you see these thick, we call them jaggers here in PA. But this whole opening here was like this, and I just, like I said, off and on a couple years just cleaning it out and making this a better spot. I can't zoom in with this camera, but right in that kind of clearing up there is where my tree stand is. And you'll see some winter rye here, but like I mentioned, I've attempted to do plots and mainly winter rye and clover just to have some green. And this is rough, rocky dirt, but I think I'm going to try to spend a little bit more time this year on it. I've never tilled it, but I might actually till it and get a bunch of lime down. You can see this trail right here was just thick and impassable. And here's another one, but this border is like real open hardwoods, but it was just real thick. I think this was an old, it might have been old pasture, because there's like old farm fencing around it. It was just, so, like I said, so thick. But I kind of made these trails. I mean, it's pretty muddy, but lots of baby deer tracks. Looks like they found an apple already. But I mowed this little lane and I sprayed it one year over into, there's like a kind of like a gas line opening over here. And now it's like, you can see it's like a deer highway. Now I do trim it every year, just anything that comes across it, but they really use this. And I've passed up, like I just showed you that tree stand, I've passed up several bucks coming out of this trail out into my lane that I opened. Yeah, all kind of deer tracks through here. So I got a little bit of cleanup maybe, but I don't want to keep it too tight like a tunnel, but they still come through here. But I kind of like to keep the trails open a little bit more so they don't feel like confined. And this tree just came down, and I think I might actually leave this down, because like the deer come there, they could come from the trail I just showed you, and sometimes they would cut down that way. And it was like 5 yards under my tree, and sometimes I'm like, that's just a little too close. So this, I might actually keep on blocking it, so it's going to force them, and most of the time they do this anyways, but it will force them out into this opening here. There's an old vine scrape I've had here for a few years now, and that tree broke, so I actually put a metal post and I cut this branch down, or that little shrub down, tree, whatever it is, and I hung my scrape off of that. It works pretty good. I get tons of bucks come through here, fawns and does, and pretty much anything that comes down this lane hits that scrape, or the vine anyways. Yeah, you can see this is winter rye. It needs mowed. Sorry, I can't get that to zoom or focus on that, but it's a little bit too far along. It's like pushing mid-June. I wanted to mow, but I came over here to kind of scope this out, and I noticed some of these trees down, so I got to get that done first. So I'm a little bit behind. I just don't want the rye to go to seed and then make a mess. So here's a tree I got to clear out. And I mean, deer can still get through here, but I like to keep it tidy. I just realized I've been walking around for several minutes with my wireless mic turned off. So if I didn't get any audio, I'm gonna have to do a voiceover on what I just talked about. But here we go. This is like, I call this a food plot, but it's really, I mainly made this, I mean, you're not gonna keep any deer on small properties, but it might entice them, and it does for sure. Like I said, I hunted here a couple years, and this was so thick you couldn't even get through here, and they were just skirting around in the hardwoods. So I made these openings, and it just gives them some edge, something to browse on. I see them all the time, just walking down these edges, just browsing on whatever, this garbage shrubs. I'm really just trying to pull them off other properties and direct them onto here, even if it's just a pass through. I don't expect them to sit here and eat for an hour, but sometimes they hang out and eat. Like I have had a couple of decent clover plots in here, but last year it droughted out so bad in the fall, and the turkeys got most of my seeds. I mean, there's an okay amount of winter rye that's still here, but normally winter rye is much like 20 times thicker than this. The turkeys just destroyed it, and like I said, it's not good dirt. Let me turn you back around here. So this little opening is only, I think this one's like 0.15 acres. This was the first opening I created, and then like the following year I'll walk up and show you that one, but it's only 0.1 acre. So between the two, it makes a quarter of an acre. So I think if I can get a good food plot, it might keep some deer around. Who knows? I just enjoy trying to do whatever I can and have some fun, and gets me out in the woods, get me some exercise, which I need very much. But yeah, I've always planted these the winter rye and the clover mixes in the fall, and then in the spring mow the rye, and then you have a clover plot, and it's worked well for me. Like I have property in Ohio, so it's worked well for me there, but that ground is much better, and I put more time into it with lime and fertilizer. I haven't done that here, but I think if I do, I might get some decent plots here. I don't know what that old spiky weed is. I'm not up to speed on my weed names. Alright. So I did mow that lane, but that was really just for me to pull my four-wheeler down around to get down to that lower opening. You can see the winter rye down there too. And again, you can see how thick all that is. This was just like that. Look, just like that. This whole opening right here. And I mowed this, and it was really because my stands is down here. And when I only had this top opening, the deer would come and go straight, like through the hardwoods. So I was hoping I could get them to turn down to here and then exit that way, and they do. So this actually worked out pretty good. And plus, I can't zoom in with this camera, but there's a few apple trees scattered around the property. There's 2 here, and I'll show you some more down in the woods. The only thing is, I'm not sure what kind of apples these are, but they drop well before season. And our season starts early here. Well, I'm in the early zone. It starts in mid-September, and these apples are long gone before then. But I do get lots of pictures of the deer eating them. I'll put a camera aiming towards the apples, and I always get pictures. Actually, that bigger buck that I got a few years back, I got a picture of him on his hind legs picking for an apple right here, right at this apple tree. Well, here's my 0.1 acre food plot. Looks like something was here. Yeah. So that big stump was there. It was actually just kicked out a deer. Let me see. Oh, it's a doe. Nice looking doe. I wish I could zoom in. Anyways, I've slowly been trying to cut this stump up and get it out of here, but I always find better things to do. You can see this tree came down. Oh, there's a nice track. There are some good bucks over here. There were a couple, like Pennsylvania, we're not getting, well, at least in my experience, we're not getting giant bucks here. But if you get a 3.5-year-old buck in Pennsylvania, you're probably doing pretty decent. And I think I had a couple nice bucks make it through. I got some late season pictures, or like after the season pictures. One had an arrow in it, so I'm not sure if that deer was going to survive. And I don't know. I know this is a heavily hunted area, so somebody got a crack at him. Hopefully he made it through. This is definitely loaded with deer tracks. So I gotta get this tree out of here. Looks like the deer are finding their way through here, no problem. And this tree, I'm gonna, like, some of it came out into the opening, but I think I'm going to leave this. There was a deer trail where they would hop up into the opening right here. But they can either come up the other side or... Excuse me, holy cow. That took about 30 seconds for it to come out. Sorry. So anyways, I might leave this tree down up until about right here. It actually fell on top of a scrape tree that I have in the middle of the edge, or the middle of that opening over there. So I do want to cut that down. But I actually don't mind this being blocked, because it would kind of force the deer to come up that way, which is where my stand is. And they're not going like straight through here, which they really couldn't anyways. I was already trying to like block it off with brush over these past few years. Yeah, I definitely gotta get this mowed. Alright, so here's like the far edge of the property, and it's starting to get into some open hardwoods. And here's another vine scrape I have hanging. I'm sure you've read, or if you watch YouTube, you've probably read about these a million times, but they, at least for me, they really do work. Well, I don't know if it's like gonna pull a deer from 50 yards to come down here just to hit it, but I definitely get tons of pictures on these scrapes. And here's an apple tree, but it never actually has apples on it. It might be, I don't know, old and decrepit. There's my scrape tree. So here's another trail that I have kind of mowed in, and it got blocked. And right, exactly right here where I'm standing is where I shot that bigger buck. There's my stand over there. So I might leave that block, because this is like 25-ish yards, which would, if they come from the same direction they always do in the direction he came, it would push them over onto this other Y of the trail, which would be like, I don't know, 20 or less, 20 yards or less. There's my stand up there. You probably can't see it. I actually think that for the deer to be coming the direction where I shot my buck, they have to be crossing the road, coming up into the woods and then angling up here. But I got tons of pictures of that buck in these little openings, so I knew he was around, which was kind of pretty neat. And this is another thing I'm sure you've read about a million times, but I might finally put a water hole right in here. I kind of like started digging out a little spot where I wanted to put it last year right there, but I just never got around to doing it. So I might just put one, start digging that down as much as I can, and I might just put the tank above ground. Well, that's gonna do it. I'm gonna put the camera away, get my chainsaw, and get to work, get what I can get done here in a couple hours. It's Friday. This is my happy hour. It's Friday after work, so I'll try to keep it going when I get over here, get this mowed. Maybe make some more videos on how this progresses. And hopefully, like I said, I'm going to try to get some lime in here and get a little bit better food plots this year, because I think there's going to be a couple decent bucks around. I didn't put cameras out yet. I usually put cameras out in July or maybe even August. That's going to do it. So thank you all for watching. And I can't say I'm going to be putting videos out too much on this channel, but I'll try to keep some progress videos going for this area, and even some of my other spots as I'm scouting around. So thanks for watching, and I hope we'll see you on the next video.